Hey everybody, welcome to the pre-market stream that we open up to the public every single Wednesday via YouTube. Thanks for joining us this morning. Going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to happen. Once I'm done speaking here, this is Spartan, by the way. Beth's going to come on, give you a breakdown of the macro environment, go through any bigger picture items that make sense to be looking at, as well as any of the commodities and bigger cap names in the short to medium term. Once that's done, I'm going to come on. We're going to go through the names that I'm looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll talk about the news associated with those gap up, gap downs. We'll chart out the support and resistance levels, build an action plan for the open on those names, as well as go through the SPY and the FANG. After I'm done, I'll pass it over to Selpeach, who will come on and give you a breakdown on the analyst calls that he's looking at for today, macro money flow, and as well any individual names that he's looking at. We'll do a quick little recap before the open, and we'll be ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass over to Beth, guys, and I will talk to you shortly. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
I am indeed, so thank you so much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Pre-market here at SpartanTrading.com. Excuse me, and also a warm welcome to those of you who are joining us through our live YouTube stream. FYI, I am also known as Mama's Options on Twitter, and I am the mama in this room, okay? Lots to talk about. You know, and I'm going to be talking about the big picture, right? No damage on the monthly charts. Weekly charts have been done. Okay, and we'll go over that. And we're also going to do a little bit of a deep dive on Apple today, just to see how that's going out. API crude oil, wow. Okay, like I say, if anybody could figure this out, how this works, I can't. They don't know. I mean, it's like crazy stuff, you know? I don't know. PMI Marquette out of India. Better than expected. You would not expect that, but it was. Services as well as composite. German final, worse than expected, a little bit worse than expected in the US for the European area. Same thing, a little bit better, yada, yada, yada. Okay. Let's take a peek at, we do have the ADP numbers coming out, right? Fed head Evans is speaking. We got also final Marquette PMI numbers, ISM coming out. So we do have a lot of economic data. EIA, I mean, yeah. Okay, let me know what you think on that one. Rosengreen is speaking, Mester, Evans. So a lot of Fed heads talking today. So this week has had more economic data, obviously, than last week. So we'll see how that plays out. Okay, Janet, stay in your lane. That's all I have to say. I mean, seriously, you're not the chair of the FOMC. Knock it off. So she had to walk back a lot of her comments, right? Your Treasury Secretary, act the role, please and thank you. Sorry, I just had to say that. Okay. Interesting news out of the Wall Street Journal that Morgan Stanley, Credit Suisse, Goldman Sachs, they are going to change some of their how they're going to view some of these hedge funds as well as family offices. It's about freaking time. Especially these family offices, my goodness gracious, they just get away with it. Yeah, that's going to change. I can't imagine the SEC not getting involved with that, to be honest with you. Okay, once again, look, capital gains only affects 3% of the taxpayers, okay? This is how you sell what you want to do if you're the Biden administration. You go out and say, guys, 3%, that's it. You're fine, be okay, yada, yada, yada. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just saying. The impact, I mean, Kramer talks about it, everybody's talking about it, will be negligible, I think. You'll have the immediate shock, but I mean, they're not going to get what he wants. I mean, there's no way he's going to get as high as he wants, but it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, right? Okay. 10 reasons to buy bank stocks. Eric Barron's this morning. Okay, let's take a peek. There you go. Give it a read. Notable, interesting, makes sense, right? We did get the pullback that I was looking for. On the XLF, I did follow one of the sweeps yesterday on XLF just to get my, I mean, it's a lotto trade for all intents and purposes, just to get my feet wet, see how that plays out. Okay, today is actually pretty interesting in terms of the earnings calendar, guys. And the reason why I'm saying is that in April, it was the best revenue surprise as well as earnings surprise ever for that month. It was like 85%, 83 point whatever, okay? This actually, the month of May is not showing that. We're seeing a lot of misses on the revenue side, notable, as well as on the earnings side. So keep an eye on that. GM, our gal Mary, she's going to be on CNBC this hour. Let's see what she can do. You know, this once again shows when you get the proper head of a company, what magic they can produce. I just love this stock. I think it's going a lot higher. I mean, Delta trades on it, yada, yada, yada. Okay. But like I say, keep an eye on some of this stuff. It's really interesting to see how we're getting a lot of surprises on the downside today. Okay. So it is important and it is notable. Right? Okay. Let's take a peek in terms of daily insider Roku. But guys, it's only 124,000. Seriously, I mean, it's like, what does South Beach say? A pimple on an elephant, you know, ass, whatever. That's nothing. I wouldn't be buying Roku off of that, but it does have earnings. I wouldn't be selling Roku either, but someone, you know, a lot of profit taking came in. That actually is a good bullish setup for me. And I'll discuss that in the room in terms of what I'm thinking with Roku in terms of earnings. And basically they have earnings tomorrow after the close, and I'll talk about that. Today, White Cap Resources. SPGYF. That should get a little bit of a pop going on there. Okay. Once again, those of you who know, I like only the best of breed, and best of breed for me is 70+% on the analyst side. And the only one that makes that cut today is XOM on the buy side from Werner Eisenmann. Okay, pretty cool. I do like, guys, the energy side. I think it's going to continue to move higher. I can tell you that financial institutions, in terms of exposure with the clients, is like nil still on a lot of these, and we haven't even, I don't think, seen the FOMO yet on it, on the energy names themselves. Okay, so just saying that. White House eyes subsidies for nuclear plants to help meet climate target sources. Okay, well, I'm working on a trade on that. You betcha. Okay. You know, if money's going to flow in, it's going to pop. And this makes sense, right, to everybody, that this would happen, that they would start to do that, subsidies. So anyways, okay, so let's look at fund flows yesterday. This is a pretty good fund flow, guys, right? But it's still really, really high, like really, really high. In the SPY was the one, even though on the option side it was the IWM, but I digress. And then money coming in very, very light. You can see that XLV healthcare, right? Okay, so let's look at where we are. And we talked about this divergence, right, between on the option side, smart money, dumb money in terms of all-time highs. I think we're going to start to curl up here. This is going to start to go down. I think we're going to have a FOMO on the chase side because everybody's thinking, oh my God, it's May. We must have a 10% decline coming. I don't know about that one. As always, I will defer to Spartan in terms of the short-term technicals, what he's thinking, but in terms of longer-term stuff, okay. Last two Momo markets, 2013, 2017. You can see how we're going along here, yada, 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 right? Historical analogs, consolidation, yada, 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 followed by uptrend. But as you can see here, this can last a while before we start to go higher. So, and then you can see your 10 most recent years that made the cut off of this. And this 1982 actually looks the closest right now, as well as this 1988. So, I mean, you know me, I like to go back so that I can go forward. Okay, so what does this mean? Going back to 1930, S&P after first 84 days of the year correlation is greater than 0.7. That's a big deal, 0.75. What does it mean? Not a whole hell of a lot. Except if you go farther out, 6 months to a year, 84% statistical probability that the market will be up 4.5%, 1 year out, 8.6%. That's about it on the correlation side. Lots of company. All right, S&P 500 after it ends the month of April with the highest dumb money confidence. Who cares? That's us, by the way, we're the dumb money. Nothing. Okay, just showing. Oh, fantastic heat map, guys. Fantastic. Except on the commodity side, you can see why we continue to move higher on the CRB commodities. Just and this is what inflation looks like, guys. But looky, ICLN, time to get back buying it. Okay, and then SMH. Oh my God, I would have thought it would be single digits. I really want this. I did get off out of my socks. I told everybody I basically took off 3/4 of my hedges yesterday. Okay. And I actually even put on a little bit of an aggressive SPY trade, but I didn't post it mainly because it was really risky and it was expensive. So I didn't want to post that. I apologize, but that's, hey, I have to look at risk reward, right? Qs are green, IBB, XLK, fantastic, right? Love this. EEM, fantastic. IWM, love the green. What does this mean? On a risk reward basis, we're going to get a bounce. Now, don't forget, this is more accurate than this is. You can stay extended a hell of a lot longer than you can on the upside than you can on the downside. That's just how it works. And the reason why is because the yanks that you get on the downside are so much fun, but it's like elasticity, it has to snap back. Okay, let's take a look what happened yesterday. Energy up, financials up, healthcare up, industrials up, materials up. This is not a bad, I mean, oh my God, right? But it really wasn't that big a deal. XLK was the worst, 1.79%, but this wasn't a big deal. I know it felt like a big deal because, oh my God, we don't go down that much, but it just wasn't a big deal. Iconic, I love this one. It swept, I missed it, but I'm in it. Now, when it dipped a little bit, we'll see. Flow algo, let's see what Flow has to say for us. Okay, this is for yesterday. All right, so let's take a peek. Okay. This is not a big deal. 12.7 million for IWM. No. On the option side, guys, the calls outpace the puts. This is not a big deal, right? Facebook, 17.2 million. SPY, okay, offsets that, right? Apple, still seeing the buys coming in, right? A lot of it was for May this week and next week. Okay, but we started to see some nibbling, guys, on this 140 for June. I did add another rung on my Apple. I'll post it for the room just so they can see what I'm doing. And it's out to June 2023s. This is what I do. Okay, you don't want to be short dated on any of the FANG right now, guys, except for hedges like on Amazon and Apple and stuff like that. Okay, all right. But like I say, this was a fantastic, I mean, this is really, this reflection, guys, is, you know, this is not what big declines look like. It's just not. Okay. All right. Let's take a peek here. VXM. We're going to start looking at this on a more regular basis because this gives us the Nasdaq volatility. Okay. It's a bearish, as you can see here, it's a descending triangle, which is actually bullish because it normally pops. This is what I was taught decades ago. The direction goes against. So we probably will get a spike, a higher spike in the VXN, but you know, this is monthly. Who knows when? Okay, could be August, it could be, who knows, right? Okay, let's look at the VIX in and of itself. You can hardly see the candles here, guys. These are monthly candles. Oh my goodness gracious. Look at these. This is last month's, this is this month's. I'll be honest with you guys, this normally happens. It's a coiling event, so we're going to get a big move. Probably, right? It would be going higher, but on this one, I know that Spoon is now switched over to the VIX, which I'm very happy about because it never lies from the VXX, which is meant to go to 0. So we'll see how this plays out. Plus, I have a bet with one of our members that it doesn't go below 10. We'll get to 10, so we'll see how that plays. And I'm going to collect on that bet. TN. Let's take a peek here. This is the 10-year. This is the actual futures on it. Okay, as opposed to yield. I mean, consolidative. We've basically been consolidating now for multiple weeks, right? Yeah. Same thing, right? Like I say, I really don't believe that we're going anywhere. I think it's, you know, exciting, but the range is set for multiple months as far as I'm concerned. 170.70 on the high and on the down, 137, but I actually think this is the down right here, 146. So I think we're going to be stuck in this box for multiple months to come, unless something dramatic happens, i.e. that the Fed all of a sudden says, hey, we're going to stop quantitative easing. Good luck with that one. I don't think so. We'll see what happens with non-farm payroll on Friday, but you know, good luck with that. Okay, bonds, what's going on? Yield up, 30, 10, 5, 2. The TLT put sweeps came in. That was notable because normally when those put sweeps come in, that's smart money. and they're looking for the TLT, which is the 20-year to sell off, okay? Canada yield up, all across the board. In Europe, yield higher. Overseas in the Pacific Rim, Japan flat, Hong Kong yields down, in Australia yields up. Let's take a peek here at the dollar. Consolidative. This is a monthly, guys. So something we're setting up for a big move. I can't tell you which way. My inclination actually is, to be honest with you, is that it goes down. And the reason why I say that is because if you think in terms of interest rates, right, as Europe starts to reopen, I think rates are going to have to go higher. But that's just, my story, and I'm sticking to it. Still in the Deutsche Bank and, and Barclays. I'm still in FAS. Nothing's changed with that. Okay. So another thing we have to keep an eye on here is gold, the DXY. Okay. I was very articulate yesterday when I said, what the? Okay. Gold stopped, okay, exactly where the double top is. Okay. So if we are indeed, as Janet said, going into an inflationary cycle, I can tell you right now, gold will have broken this downtrend line. This is a monthly, except now we've got double top, right? This is another one of those clues say, hey, guys, come on, right? Okay, gold dollar, you can see here, I actually think, to be honest with you, that gold's going to roll over again. But with that said, we have to keep an eye on it. This is the weekly to see if we actually do break out, which would be a totally different narrative that I would have to start talking about. CRB, you can see, right? Pushing higher. Hasn't broken out here though, which is really fascinating because one would have thought that would have, but still marching higher. Let's take a look at the commodities, real time, what's going on. Gold flat as up flat, silver, yada, yada. Gold, US dollar, continue to look at that, guys. That's really important. That's a heavily traded spread. For those of you who like to do the spreads with me. Platinum, plating, everything else is up basically. Copper, nickel, lead, zinc. Yeah, what's down? Corn. Okay. Soybean. And that, don't forget, all of these corn, these are all extended, right, on the heat map. Cocoa, coffee going up, 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 right? Sugar up. And then cattle down and feeder cattle down. Lumber continues to scream higher. Okay, let's look at the indices. DAX got taken to the woodshed, so it's bouncing more than our indices are, right? As you can see here, up 1.61%, FTSE up 1.26%. Okay, let's get down to business here. All right, FXI, monthly, still holding the pivot. DAX, still holding monthly, the pivot. FTSE, still holding weekly, the pivot. Get the theme here, right, guys? Dow, okay, still holding the extension on the monthly, okay? Now, if we were to break these extensions, then we have some room on the downside. But as long as it holds, guys, this is where you want it to basically take off your hedges, which is what I did. And if it basically breaks, then I put them back on. So now I have to see what happens. We were all expecting a bounce off of the extensions, right? Okay. Dow, this is something interesting, and this is why I got out of our UDow, thankfully, at the right time. And this is why, is because until end of June, right, on the Dow, sloppy choppy, 50-50, going back 15 years, right? So, and this is where you want to start getting back in. And this is where I'll put back the Dow, June, December, 14 out of 15 years, back test, 5.96%. You betcha. Okay, Russell, held, monthly, extension. S&P, held, the pivot box here. This is a weekly, that's why, okay? Nasdaq, held on the monthly extension. So like I say, guys, no damage was done on the longer term here. It felt like a lot, but it wasn't a lot, okay? And this is what happens when you have these sorts of, trudging, almost not so much parabolic, but these extensions, right? Okay, the pullbacks are horrible. But as you can see here, the NASDAQ, the futures, 13,193 can pull back to. So that's like almost 500 points lower, and still be fine on the monthly. Look at this beautiful extension going back to 2018. And it is monthly. So it can't pierce it, then reclaim it. You know, we got plenty of time in the month. Okay, fine. Still flagging, guys. This is a weekly, hasn't broken down. Clearly this was, and this is what I kept saying, it was making lower highs. So obviously we were going to test the downside. And I was and this was another reason why I did get into FNGD. We talked about it. I took it off yesterday. And now, as you can see here, it is holding the extension that goes back to March 2020. So no damage done, bounced right off it. Apple, flagging, no damage done. It didn't even get to the 123, the 23.6% fib. It's a monthly, no damage done. I mean, it feels like a lot, but when you have a triple top, you know that this was also, this was obvious we were going to roll over. And that's why I put on the hedges on Apple. And that's why I told everybody I was putting hedges on. After last week earnings, Apple, Amazon, it was really quite obvious. We've done a deep dive on Amazon, deep dive now on Apple against the Qs. Interesting. Still holding support here. Okay, so if Apple starts to break down, this is going to be a pretty notable situation, guys. So you have to be aware of that. So that would tell me, right, that Apple's going to continue another leg down. This is monthly. This is a big deal. Still holding up. So until it breaks, right, you have to give Apple the benefit of the doubt. And that's why I basically bought another leg on my long of my calendars, okay, in terms of spreads. If it breaks, okay, then obviously I have to get back into the Apple puts, right? Apple XLK, same there. It's flagging. This is monthly, it's still flagging. Didn't even come close to this downtrend line, right? Apple, as you can see, since September, has been weakening against XLK, right? And to be honest with you, if we are indeed going to have a more meaningful bounce in the market, as in starting to go higher, Apple should be one of the leaders, okay? And that's just how it works. Just saying. Netflix still weakening against Apple, but as you can see here, we're just consolidating for the last few months. This is going to be interesting to see how this breaks out. This is actionable for me. So if we break up here, then I'll buy Netflix, right? I'll be in the long Netflix, short Apple. And if it breaks down here, I'll be long Apple, short Netflix. More than likely, guys, in order for this to happen, right, Netflix would probably be selling off. Okay. All right. Amazon, Apple, my time is up, but I wanted to show you this. This is a monthly, still holding up, still consolidative, still flagging. Okay. As I mentioned, welcome once again to those of you who are joining us for a pre-market here. This is what we do every day at SpartanTrading.com. It's now time for me to pass it on to Spartan. Are you ready, sir?
I just need about 30 seconds here, Beth.
Not a problem. Okay. Amazon, Apple, you can see what's going on here. To be honest with you, I want to see this break this downtrend line. My position, okay, if we talk in terms of my position, in terms of what I've got on for Amazon and what I've got on for Apple, my position is weighted more on Amazon right now than Apple. But that can change very quickly, right? If this starts to break down. But as you can see here, it's still holding up fine on the monthly. Facebook, Apple. Facebook actually bounced against Apple, broke this downtrend line on a monthly. Let's see what's going to happen here. But we are getting pinned at the 61.8% fib. If it pops, then the next leg up is basically up to this 265. So you're basically talking 10% outperformance of Facebook versus Apple. How can that happen? Apple sell off, Facebook do nothing, Facebook rallies, Apple does nothing. Okay, who knows how it's going to play. Apple SPY, still flagging here on the monthly. Apple has weakened against the SPY, quite obvious. You can see that, but still holding this uptrend line. This will be notable, guys. If this actually starts to break, then yes, I will be back into my Apple puts, because the only way this is going to happen, right, is if the, Apple soft is selling off, right? Okay. Last one I wanted to show you was XLK. Still holding up fine. It's a monthly. Basically bounced right off this pivot. Okay. And that's basically what we have to look at right now, is that pivot right there in terms of XLK. And that comes in right there, 134.99. And I got that, as you can see right here, it was a double top. Okay. And now basically that it's 135.18, 134.79. So let's just put 134.79 on that.
All right,
So,
Beth, ready to come back on.
okie dokie, guys. Have fun.
All righty, guys. Morning. What's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. There we go. There we go. All right, a couple different things. If you guys are new to the chat, make sure to go to the Discord link that was emailed to you. Click the link. You'll be in. Be good to go. Follow those instructions when you guys do come in. If you guys do come in today, make sure to click on the disclaimer section, give that a read, as well as go to the new to chat information section and scroll up to the top and read from top to bottom. I'll go through that again at the end once we close down the YouTube stream in more detail. All right, pre-market tickers on watch this morning, guys. Couple different things. Tesla, Nvidia, Nvax, ESPR, BGFV, ATNX. So a couple of different names, a lot of names bouncing with the market, some earnings names. Let's go through them. Tesla gapping up and simply the market. Nvidia, Baird initiates coverage on Nvidia. Outperform rating announces an $800 price target. Stocks gapping up on that end, sympathy with the market. NVAX gapping up after last day's extension, I should say. ESPR earnings big miss on EPS and revenue. Year-over-year growth was 333%, but gapping down because of that EPS and rev miss. BGFE earnings beat EPS and revs. Year-over-year growth 25.3%. Q2 guidance for EPS was a decent, pretty big, large raise actually. I think it was like 200%. So ATNX. Shares gain after acquiring Cur Therapeutics for $70 million in cash, $115 million milestone payment as well. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So first two we will be looking at are Tesla and Nvidia. So Tesla and Nvidia here. Let's take a look at what we got. So Tesla, nice little gap up. So I'm actually going to change this level. Actually, let's see. Nope. Pull it up a little bit. Okay. Just tightening up our recent range low. Okay, yes. Let's quickly take a look at the daily here. So daily chart pushing back to reclaim uptrend on the daily in the short term, as you can see here. Trying to at least. Short term EMA support trying to reclaim as well. It did hold this range. I was saying this yesterday before close, but if it could close above that 66.7 area, I could see a bounce today, which it did close above it yesterday, and we're getting a further continued bounce. So now it's trying to reclaim that uptrend. We'll see if it's able to do so. Pivot to the upside today is going to be that 680.08 level of resistance to be reclaimed, or support, I should say. This level is reclaimed. We got room towards 692.04 to 702.76. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback to 667.78 to 657.62 on the downside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning on the bullish. Neutral side today, looking for a continuation grind higher if that pivot is able to stay intact. Let's take a look at Nvidia. So I talked about yesterday as well how the all the semiconductors SMH was extended to the downside, and almost all the individual names were as well. I was expecting a little bit of a bounce today, and I think we should get a decent one. We'll see what happens in regards to that. That being said, 50 MA key level. at 572 level, which we are decent, amount above right now in the pre-market. Label some of these levels, support and resistance reclaim. So that would be a pivot. Yes, yes, yes. EMA support, support. Okay, let's take a look at Nvidia here. So 50 EMA bounce, clearly occurring. Pivot to the upside today will be the 581.23 level. That level is able to hold to get run towards 588.61 to 599.64 on the upside after that. Unable to hold 572.70 to the 566.57 level on the downside will be tested. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today as long as that pivot can stay intact. I do think we'll see a continued bounce on that name to the upside. So that's what I'll be looking for. Pivot, hold, continued bounce. We'll see what happens. So that's Tesla. That is Nvidia. Let's take a look at the next two. NVAX. And ESPR. Pretty sure we can use the same levels as yesterday on NVAX. Mark that. All right, let's quickly just take a look at the daily though. So extended to the downside. Just want to draw this little uptrend in the short term here. Okay. So 187.04, guys, is the pivot to the upside today. This level is able to be reclaimed. Room towards 193.57 to 202.30. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback to 178.41 to 172.41 on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of NVAX today. As long as it can hold that pivot, I think we can see a continued bounce on the name to the upside. So that's what I'll be looking for. Hold the pivot, continuation to the upside. All right, ESPR, let's take a look at this, which broke quite a big range to the downside, looks like. Wow. What's below 1635? 1403. Okay. All right, pivot to the downside today, $18. This level is unable to hold. Room towards 1635. That level breaks. We see 14 on the downside. Able to be reclaimed. Look for a pushback to 1980 to 2162. Overall on ESPR, going to be leaning on the bear side today. Looking for pop topping to take the name short. Of course, trends need to break for it to roll over, but that's what I'm thinking. So that's NVAX. That is ESPR. Let's take a look at BGFE and ATNX. All right, guys. So BGFE. All right, 2260 guys, pivot to the upside today on BGFE. Levels able to hold. We got room for continuation towards 2496 range breakout area on the daily. That level breaks. We can see further continuation towards 27s. Unable to hold 20, 27 to 1850 can be retested on the downside. On this BGFE, I'm going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for continuation higher if that pivot point can hold. So that's going to be the key, in my opinion. Pivot point hold for continuation. All right, so that's BGFE. Let's take a look at ATNX. So up $1.16, up 31%. This is a increase in market cap 275. Okay. Interesting one to look at. So an increase in market cap by 12% with that milestone payment technically. Mark the upper level 723. Won't be able to see it, but we'll have it there anyways. So 503 pivot to the upside today on this ATNX. This level was able to hold. We got room for a continuation towards 552 to 619 on the upside. Unable to hold. 464 to 388 will be tested on the downside. Overall on ATNX, going to be leaning more on the bearish side today, looking for a pop topping, take the name short. I know it's into the gap area. Well, 619 is like the gap area. If we can get above there, can get a little bit of a squeeze, but that's what I'm thinking. Pop topping this morning. Let's take it on the short side. That's BGFE. That is ATNX. Let's take a look at the SPY and FANG. So yesterday we were looking at the SPY at close. It did reclaim short-term EMA support, which is what we talked about. Literally right into close, it just got above it by 2 cents or 3 cents, whatever it was. Held this little, or reclaimed this little uptrend in the short term as well. Could have room to bounce back to the top of that range, 418.25 in the short term, which is also the head and shoulders on the daily on the market. Also want to take a quick look at where that downtrend is, because I think it's important to know. So we got a little bit more room to up to that area, which would be around 419s. And let's do this, do a similar trend line. Let's see if this is a channel that we can use. And I would say it is. Always a good idea to look at the bigger picture on the SPY, guys. Alrighty. Okay. Okay, so pivot to the upside today, 416.92. This level is able to hold. You got room for continuation towards 417.64 to 418.26. If that level breaks, we can see 419.08 on the upside today, which is the top of the channel. Unable to hold, 416.26 to 415.73 will be tested. If that level breaks, bottom channel around 415s. I think that channel is going to stay intact today. I do think we'll trade up to the top of it today. Maybe if we do in the morning, then obviously we'll probably pull back in the afternoon. But stay within it, I think. But 416.92 is the pivot to the upside today. This level holds. We should see continuation higher. So leaning bullish neutral within the channel to the upside. All right, that's the SPY. Let's take a look at Apple. Take a quick look at the Apple daily so we can get a good sense of what the heck's going on here. All right, so pivot to the upside today on Apple is going to be the 50 EMA on the daily, which is 129.26 area. Unable to hold, you got room back towards the 128.61 to the 127 level on the downside. That level breaks 125s will be tested. Able to hold, we look for continuation back towards 130.93 to 132.63 on the upside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning bullish. Looking for a continuation higher today. So that's Apple, guys. Let's take a look at Amazon. So Amazon, let's take a look. It did fill that gap area we talked about yesterday, which was 32.90. Oh, actually, no, it's 32.72. That's where the 50 EMA was. Okay, so that's good. Let's take a look at this thing intraday. we got a pivot, or not a pivot. We got a retest of the 50 EMA after earnings, which huge move to say the least. Pivot to the upside, 341.07. Levels able to reclaim 333.63 to 33.94 on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 33.19.81, 32.88 on the downside. If that, sorry, on Amazon, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today. I do think we can continue on this bounce. Did hold the 50 MA. I think we can get a little bit of a continued bounce to the upside, as it is a tad bit extended on the downside as well, given that huge move. So I'll be looking for a little bit more of a bounce. All right, so that's Amazon, guys. Let's take a look at Netflix. $507.48 pivot to the upside today. This level is able to be reclaimed, room towards 515.43. Unable to hold 499.18 will be tested. Going to be leading, I guess, bullish neutral. It's at the bottom of the range, can trade off to the top of the range. So that's what I'll be looking for today, I guess. Kind of reminds me when Google was consolidating for, well, after its last, not the most recent earnings, but after, or the earnings before that, it consolidated in a range like Netflix did for, well, until the next earnings, pretty much. So a couple months. Looks similar in that regard. There's your Facebook channel. $319.75, guys. Pivot to the upside today. This level is able to be reclaimed. Room towards 324.53. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback on Facebook to 314.42 on the downside. I think we can trade to the top of the channel because we did bounce off the bottom of it today. So I'll be looking for a continuation push higher, leaning bullish neutral. You can see a lot of these Tac and Fang names traded it to the bottom of the channel yesterday and are at the middle of it right now. So pivot points are huge levels this morning. So it does dictate where we go within that channel, up or down. All right, pivot to the upside today, guys. 23.17. This level is able to hold. We got room for continuation higher towards the 23.46.96 level of 23.81. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback on Google into the 23.07 to 22.96 on the downside. Overall on Google, leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot can be reclaimed and held. Let's take a look at the VXX. Not VIX, VXX, VIX.IN, which is the VIX, normal VIX. That's just the way I have to search it on my platform, so you guys aren't confused. And I will label the 277s, which I forgot to save yesterday. 276, whatever. That works. And of course, we need to know where that 50 MA is, which should be around right there. And I talked about this before the close yesterday, was when you get a VIX push into the 50 MA and through it, and it fails to close above it, you tend to get pretty decent pullbacks. on that rejection. So 1954 pivot, unable to hold, room towards 1836. That level breaks, 1749 will be tested. If it's reclaimed, 2078, 2187 upside levels. And I use the VIX for direction on the market. So I don't, necessarily do anything else with it besides use it for guidance in regards to the SPY. I mean, you can hedge with it and stuff like that, of course. So that's the VIX. Let's take a look at QQQ. We talked about it a few times this morning. I think it's a good idea to relook at it. So one thing is I'm going to move the fit that level. There you go. And this actually should be. Let's pivot reclaim 3320. Yeah, that level's actually better. Okay. So Qs, we do have that 50 EMA that held up. Nice bounce off of it. 331.42 pivot to the upside today. Level holds. You got room towards 333.93 to 335.46. Unable to hold. We look for pullback towards the 50 EMA 328.83. If that level breaks, 326.35 will be tested on the downside. Overall, going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today on this QQQ. Looking for a continuation push higher. But I do want to draw the channel really quickly just because I'm doing it on everything. So I might as well do it on this as well. And that's interesting. So we're not within the channel yet on the Qs. And this is something to definitely consider because if we can get back within that channel, then we have quite a bit more room to bounce, which means the tech names could get a lot more room than I'm thinking based off of this chart than what I'm seeing on the SPY. But if we can't get back above it, we should trade back down, and I think it will be a violent trade. Typically, when you break channels to the downside, you do get falling knife type trades. If you break them to the upside, you tend to get parabolic type moves to the upside. So we'll have to see whether or not that level can reclaim that. It's going to be definitely a chart to be watching this morning. For sure. Very important, in my opinion. So that's that. Let's take a look at IWM. IWM pivot to the upside. Whoops. Pivot to the upside today is going to be this 224.35 level holds in towards 225 or 226.41, unable to hold 222.87 to the 220.90 on the downside. And we'll see if that level can hold today as well. So that's a SPY, that's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Selpeach while I type up the pre-market action plan. And we'll do a quick little recap when I come back on before the open. Selpeach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Morning, guys. Okay, hump day. Let's see what we got. Okay. All right. So the bond market's been fairly quiet, trading in a nice little range, right? It's up 0.02 this morning. It's 1.61. And the range has been about, I would say, 152 to 175. It got to that day, I think. And we're right smack in the middle, right? 161. So that's, that's what we want to see. We really want to see no real movement on the downside because I think it's more negative, quite frankly, if rates go down. Okay, it means the economy stalled out. So I'd rather see rates go up a little bit, but the best scenario would be kind of staying in this tight range. All right, let's look overseas. London's 10 years up 0.03 at 0.82. All right. Germany's is 0.21 up 0.02. Now I have a July 4th for 0. That's my guess. Okay. Meaning negative rates will be gone by then. Italy, we don't care. France, the same as them. Japan's 10 years trading about 0.09, so not moving there. So that's about it on the bonds. So pretty quiet, which is the best of all worlds, really. Let's look at commodities. So oil is up 1%. Kind of makes sense. We're seeing super inflation in commodity type stuff, right? So I've been trading the Cliffs, the Steels, you know, I've been in these names, the FCXs, I talk about them all the time. I've been in these names for, you know, in and out quite a while, trading from the long side. Stocks act great. You see them talking about things like corn and all these, you know, all these commodities. Oil no different, okay? So oil's trading up, commodities stronger, et cetera, et cetera. This is all inflationary, obviously, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so that's that on oil. Gold, I don't think gold is even significant personally. Copper is unchanged, trading at 451. So it broke out the other day. Stock, you know, commodities, an absolute monster. All right. Looking over at some of these, you know, other commodities that we really don't talk about. I mean, I don't follow corn. I just heard the headlines, right? So wheat, corn, sugar, soybeans, all up today. About anywhere from 0.5% to 1%. Sugar up 1.5%. All this stuff. So all inflationary stuff. Let's look at the currencies. Mixed against the European currencies, down against the yen, flat against the Chinese, and the euros back to under 1.20, but staying in a tight range. Currencies kind of seems as though they found their level, right? Let's look at crypto. So you've got Bitcoin up, what, 1.9%, up $1,000 at 55,000. And Ethereum is down 1.2%. That thing's had some run. And this Dogecoin, I read the headlines. I don't even know how to get a quote, to be honest with you guys. That's been in fuego. Okay, so I guess some of you guys are involved in that. I have not. And let's look at the foreign markets. Okay, so you have in Europe, you have London up 1.2%, 88 points. DAX, which was down a bunch yesterday, is up. It looks like they regained almost all, and then maybe some. Okay, up 1.6%. Okay, their economies, they their stocks very cyclically oriented. Okay, so you know, basically GDP growth is right in their wheelhouse, right? And how they're coming out of the virus is the other major factor for those guys. Over in Asia, Nikkei was down a little bit, 0.8%. China down a little bit, and Hong Kong down a little, 0.5% or so. So not a whole lot there. The big thing is the European stocks are pretty much stronger. All right. So that's that. So getting back to the Fed, you saw what Yellen said yesterday, as far as you know, she thinks that rates. She sees a rate rise. Okay, I guess she was saying, right? She, you know, but drilling down, she wasn't really saying, you know, he's got to raise rates. She said, you know, I think she's talking about putting the brakes on buying bonds, to be honest. I don't think she should have said anything. I think that was way wrong of her to talk about. And I think late in the day, she kind of pulled back from that statement. And, you know, she's not the head of the Fed anymore. So it was kind of out of place, but whatever. She certainly knows what she's talking about. Okay, she's really has an amazing resume. But Rick Reeder, who, you know, guys, I told you, like when some certain people talk, I stop and listen, stop anything I'm doing to pay attention to what these guys say. David Tepper's one of those guys. Rick Reeder, who's at BlackRock, is another guy. He manages trillions of dollars. Okay. And when he says something, you got to pay attention. So he's kind of in the Yellen camp, as far as he thinks that this $125 billion a month buying bonds that the Fed has been doing needs to stop or be cut back a lot, because you got to stop. You don't want to put too much fuel on the fire, because you run the risk of higher inflation down the road. So he believes that the inflationary trends are transitory as well, but he's basically saying that you've got to take your foot off the gas a little bit, because then you run the risk of a problem going, down the line. You can't be excessively buying. So he thinks the real advantage we have is that tech keeps inflation in place. He's bullish on tech. He does not think we're going to have runaway inflation by any stretch. I don't think the government would allow, they would do everything they can to stop it, because our balance sheet is such that we have so much debt. If interest rates went through the roof, look at how much of GDP would go to paying off debt. So they got to keep rates low. I mean, it's in their best interest. So basically, he sends a bullish tone, but he says, it's time to at least lower the bond buying every month. Okay, so I think that's important. Facebook will keep Trump ban in place. Okay, for those of you that have an opinion on that, I do not. Anyway, he sees he's bullish on stocks, but he thinks the returns going forward are not going to be what they were. Obviously, I think he said 5 to 10% returns for the year from here. The last time he was on TV, he didn't visit that thing this time, but he was talking about mostly Yellen and inflation and stuff like that. Okay. What else we got? We got China's. We know what's going on with China. I think that's the biggest risk to the market, the Taiwan situation. And I don't know what's going to happen there. Gold, oil, the virus. Okay. Europe's doing its thing, getting better. China, India's still pretty bad. Look, it just takes time. All right. Hopefully, the vaccine kills all these variants and things can get out of this little malaise we have. Things in the US are going pretty great, in my opinion. Looking at Mr. Market yesterday, so we had that downdraft. It was a little soft in the morning, and then Yellen had her comments and they hit him pretty good. And then you had that really late day rally with that surprise, a couple of billion to buy on market on close. We got a 350 and they took them up. So by and large, looking at how things shook out, we had high beta stocks really in the doghouse. FANG was soft, high PE tech was soft, semis, solar, EV, China, casinos, airlines, and retail, and biotech. So all the stuff, the high beta names were on the softer side. Okay, on the long side, you had the stuff that does better with interest rates going a little higher and GDP growth, right? You had banks and materials were kind of leading the way. You had HMOs and hospitals were very strong, and cyclicals were strong, and the rails were strong. Okay, so GDP growth names, opening up economy names were on the positive side, and then the high beta names, which would be at a disadvantage if rates were to go higher on the short side. Okay, but guys, it's really I mean, if you look at some of these names, I mean, day to day, you get a lot of flipping, flopping, but by and large, you see a lot of damage in these tech names. Okay, the charts are starting to roll over. I mean, I'm just picking. Look at Peloton for argument's sake. Okay, stock's gone from 170 to 96. Snow. They had that 420 print a few days after it went public. Now it's at 218. But there's damage. Look at Salesforce. I mean, there's real damage in some of these names. Okay, not so much in the FANG names, but these high PE names really have taken it, on the chin. DocU 270 to 200. So these stocks had an amazing run. They've come in some. The charts are kind of sort of broken, in my opinion. And we'll see what happens going forward. But I mean, for me, if the stock isn't above the 10 and 17 day moving average on the weekly, I'm not taking it home long. That's my rule. So all these stocks, all these tech names, I can trade them intraday from whatever side I want, but I'm not taking these stocks home. No way. Okay. And that's what I'm seeing. And you see like the cyclical stocks are all the opposite, you know, DuPont, Dow, all these names, Honeywell, they all look fantastic, right? The hospital stocks, HMOs look fantastic. Hospital stocks, Tenet Healthcare, I'm still long the stock from that Goldman upgrade the other day. I would put Peloton in the camp that you know, they did well when the economy was shut down, and now that the economy is opening up, the chart is reflecting it. Okay, look at the chart; it's gone from 170 to 96. So it's a high. I put Peloton in high PE tech kind of name. Maybe you don't agree with that, but it sure trades with that group. So that's how I would put it. Okay, semiconductors. And you know, these stocks are better than the high PE tech names, but they're starting to roll over a little bit too, but I'm not convinced they're not good. They're still above the 10 and 17 on the weekly, or some of them are for that matter. And I guess they're on the cusp, okay? But the real strength has been in the opening up names for sure, all right? And even like the commodity names, that's what I've seen, okay? So that's that, all right? But, you know, we've had a lot of flip-flopping and not a lot of, you know, they try to shake you out of these positions. So it's a little difficult. Let's look at the research that we have today. Okay, so on the short side, this is, to me, the most interesting stock that I'm keeping an eye on. This EBS, Emergent Biosolutions. These are the guys that made that bad batch. They were in charge of making J&J's vaccine, and they made the bad batch, and then they were put in the doghouse, and Biden in his infinite wisdom got involved in the situation, which I don't think a president should get involved in the situation, but that's just my opinion. And they said, take it away from them. I don't want them producing this vaccine. And 50% of their business is producing drugs for big pharma. And the stock has gotten absolutely obliterated. So is this, you know, a fait accompli? They're going to lose the business, or is this, as Fed Powell would say, transitory, and they're going to get the business back? And the stock has gotten absolutely creamed, and I'm trying to figure it out. Okay, so I'm waiting. You know, like I said, I can't buy stocks that look this bad. So I'm waiting for it to build the base, and I'm keeping an eye on that. And I wish. I wish I can come to some kind of resolution in my head, but the stock I can't get it out of my head. What else is there on the short side? There wasn't much. Raymond James and Goldman had no research that I saw. A KHC was downgraded. That's a BS downgrade. You know, they didn't reduce price. It was mostly on price. This race got Ferrari, which has been a monster since the day it came public, got downgraded. They look like they missed earnings yesterday. So there's a lot, you know, during earnings season, there's a lot of, you know, just upgrade and downgrade based on, you know, what they say in their earnings report. That was it on the short side that I saw. Okay. One thing, CAR, it was neutral at Morgan Stanley. They raised the target to 73, stock's 83. I don't think that's neutral. I think that's a sell. When you have a 73 target and the stock's 83, so I guess I would put that one in the sell camp. And this ESPR, look at, you know, this is why I hate biotech guys. ESPR, reiterate the buy over at JMP Securities, reduce the target from 191 to 111, okay, 111. These guys had a 191 target, and the stock is what today? 18 minus 8. I mean, talk about a 2x4 across your head. And that's why I don't like to play these names. I mean, if you lose $5, the feeling in my head is a lot worse than the benefit I get of making $5. So I stay away from these names. Anyway, that's it on the short side. Let's see on the long side. I think the call of the day is Under Armour. Okay. Look, that new CEO came in. He seems to be working wonders. The names, the numbers are pretty good. The market cap is much lower than their nearest competitor, which is, what do they have a market cap? Almost 9 billion. And Nike, I mean, it's hard to compare the two, but I mean, it's 208 billion. So there's a lot of room for Under Armour to get better. I think that's the call of the day. Everybody seems to like it. This new CEO absolutely knows what he's doing. The guy who was running prior to was the founder of the company, and he did a wonderful job getting the stock off the ground. But he recognized the fact that he couldn't take them to the next level, and it seems as though this guy can. So I think that's my number one call. What else? Nvidia initiate outperform over at Baird with an 800 target. Stock's 574. They also like Sealed Air, which is a typical cyclical company, opening up economy, GDP growth winner. Okay, they take the target from 56 to 72. Stock's 54. XPO, which Twins has been on forever. Someone raised the target there to 160. Okay, Bank of America likes COP. I think this was a decent call as well. Neutral to buy, target 67, COP. Stock's 52. CVS raising target at Citibank to 98. They also like Sealed Air. Okay. DuPont, another one of these kind of names. You can, you get a theme here with these cyclical names, right? They like DuPont. And the CYH, I'm still long from yesterday. I don't know if any of you guys took that when I mentioned, risk a dime. Hold to buy at Jefferies, target goes from 17 to 18, stocks 12.5. And that's the research that I saw. Oh, one other thing, Deutsche likes Caesars. Okay, so that's that. Kathy, I got 2 minutes. Okay, let's see what she did. She's been buying this AONS like there's no tomorrow. And the stock chart, in my opinion, looks like caca. All right, and the SKLZ, she bought 3 million shares of this. Another crappy chart, in my opinion. But I can't argue with a woman who's had the return she has, so that's why I follow her. She continues to buy DraftKings, that SPAC CMIIU. She continues to buy that. She's selling Square. Now I'm getting nervous about Square because it looks like the chart is getting a little iffy on the daily, not so much on the weekly. So she's been selling that one, which I think is interesting. Okay, you had 2 IPOs today. One was Jessica Alba's Honest Company, okay, priced at the higher end of the range. I've read a piece on it this morning. They didn't like the stock. I don't know. I have no opinion. And 5 stars on bank. You can't make money on bank IPOs, so ignore it. And let's see, the 7 IPOs for the rest of the week. And tonight we have Texas Genomics, Twilio, Rocket, and Uber. Tomorrow, Penn, Viacom, and Zoetis are the big names. And that's it for me. Spartan, it's all yours.
All righty. Thank you, Salt Beach. All right, guys, let's do a quick little recap this morning. So pre-market tickers are all posted here, guys. If you're curious in regards to the levels, everything's written up as well as all the charts posted. You can pause the YouTube stream and read it if you want. All right, a couple different things this morning that we're looking at. Tesla, Nvidia, Nvax, ESPR, BGFE, and ATNX. Tesla gapping up specifically with the market. Nvidia, Baird initiates coverage on Nvidia with outperform rating, announces a price target of $800. Nvax gapping up on extension. So gapping up on the extension to the downside for the last few days. ESPR earnings big miss, EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 333.6%. BGFE earnings beat, EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 25.3%. Q2 guidance for EPS larger raise. And then ATNX, these guys gain after they acquired Cure Therapeutics for $70 million and $150 million milestone payment. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint. Intraday, first 2 at Tesla and Nvidia. Let's go through them. All right, guys, Tesla, what's the, what are we looking at here? Tesla pivot 680.08, pivot is able to hold, room towards 692.04 to 702.76, unable to hold, look for a pullback to 667.78 to 657.62 on the downside. Overall on Tesla leading bullish, neutral, looking for a continuation push higher today. Nvidia pivot 581.23, level holds towards 588.61. That level breaks, we see further continuation towards 599.64. Unable to hold 572.70 to 566.57 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Nvidia leaning bullish, neutral, looking for a continuation push higher. Let's take a look at Nvidia, NVAX. Let's take a look at ESPR. NVAX Oh, that's not it. I was like, what did I do there? I wrote Nvidia again. NVAX, guys, pivot to the upside today is going to be the 187.04 level. Levels able to hold towards 193.57 over 202.30. Unable to hold 178.41 to 172.41 will be tested on the downside. Overall on NVAX, leaning bullish. Looking for a continuation push to the upside today. ESPR $18. Levels unable to hold towards 16.35 to the 1403 level on the downside. Able to hold, look for pushback to 1980 to the 2162 level on the upside there. Overall on ESPR, going to be leaning bearish, looking for a pop topping to take the name short. All right, let's take a look at the next two, which are BGFE and ATNX. BGFE 2260 pivot, levels able to hold towards 2496 to 2705. Unable to hold 27 to 1850. Leaning bullish neutral in my opinion, looking for continuation higher if that pivot can stay intact. ATNX 503 pivot, levels able to hold 552, 619 resistance levels above, 464 to 388 supports below. Leaning bullish, bearish neutral on ATNX, or bearish I should say. Looking for a pop topping to take the name short. We'll see what happens there. My opinion. All right, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. SPY 416.92. Pivot to the upside today. Double holds. Room higher into the 417.64 resistance breaks. We see the 418.26 level tested. Pivot unable to hold. Room lower into the 416.26 support breaks. We see 415.73 tested. I'm leaning bullish, looking for continuation of the channel to the upside. I want to see the top of that channel retested or close to it. We'll see what happens. All right, let's take a look at Apple. Apple pivot to the upside 129.26. This level is able to hold. We got room for continuation into the 130.93 to 132.63. Unable to hold 128.61 to 127.01 will be tested on the downside. This is the 50 MA on Apple on the daily. Going to be leaning bullish, looking for continuation push higher. Let's take a look at Amazon. Pivot to the upside today, 33.41. 07 level holds in towards 33.63 to 33.94. Unable to hold 33.19 to 32.88 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Amazon, leaning bullish, looking for bullish neutral, looking for a reclaim of the pivot, continuation higher, in my opinion, if that holds. Netflix pivot to the upside today is that 507.48. This level is able to hold in towards 515.43. Unable to hold 499.18 will be tested. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning more on the bullish neutral side, looking for a push back to the top of the range within this, well, range level if it can get above the pivot. We'll see what happens in my opinion. Facebook pivot to the upside today. So we're at the middle of the channel. 319.75 pivot. Levels able to be reclaimed. Room towards 324.53. Unable to hold. 314.42 will be tested. Leaning bullish. Looking for a hold of the pivot. Continuation higher. We'll see if it's able to hold up this morning. Last but not least, guys, Google. 23.23 pivot. Levels able to hold. Room towards 23.46 to 23.48. 23.84. Unable to hold 23.07 to 22.96 will be tested. And leaning bullish neutral on that. VIX. So pivot, guys, is the 50 MA on the upside, which did get rejected yesterday, 1954. Unable to hold 1836 support, which is testing now. Level break 1749. Able to get back above the pivot. You can see the upper end resistance levels there, 2078, 2187. And I use this for direction on the market. QQQ, big level this morning is the reclaim of that bottom channel. We talked about this. This is the big thing to be watching, guys, because if the Qs can reclaim the bottom of the channel, we should get more room to bounce. I probably would defer to this over the SPY because Qs were leading the market yesterday, up and down. So 331.42 pivot on QQ. Levels able to hold towards 33.93 to 33.35.46. Unable to hold 328.83 to 326.35 will be tested. Leaning bullish, neutral on Qs. Last but not least, guys, the IWM pivot to the upside 224.35. Levels able to hold 226.41. Unable to hold 224.87 to 220.90 on the downside. Overall on IWM leaning bullish, neutral. And that's it. So that's the SPY, it's a FANG. Those are the individual names that we are looking at today.